Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak, and welcome to today's podcast. We're recording this on Saturday, January 28th, 2023, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And this podcast is brought to you by tballamerica.com. Whether it's T-ball or the college scholarship, check out tballamerica.com. I'm joined by Ray Clifford, who's in Marysville, Ohio. Ray, how are you?
Doing good. Looking forward to some good football tomorrow.
Yeah, and good football. We're going to be joined by Ralph in a few minutes. And, Ray, I was just thinking when we first met, just so the fans know, it was up in Cortland. I think we were just happened to be standing next to each other.
Yeah, that first year they were doing the workouts in the stadium as opposed to the outside fields. And I had just gotten there, was just kind of watching from the railing that kind of borders the field, and you came walking up with here's a list of the roster and numbers.
Right. I was trying to promote the podcast.
Yeah.
I put the podcast on top. Yeah, then we got to talking.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ray, as we're waiting for Ralph, it's all Aaron Rodgers, whether we like it, whether we don't like it. We secured our offensive coordinator in Nathaniel Hackett. We secured our offensive line coach in Keith Carter. And it's on we go. Now it becomes the exciting part. So I want to ask you, Ray, I'm going to ask Ralph too in a minute, forgetting about what we have to give up. If I gave you a choice, who would you like to be the quarterback of the Jets next year? Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, or Jimmy Garoppolo? Who would you take?
Well, you say forget what we're giving up, but that's a lot.
I just want to go in ability.
Well, okay, if cost and all that wasn't a factor.
Doesn't mean a thing. Just give me a name, Ray.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Rodgers first.
Okay, all right.
Or Garoppolo before Carr, actually. Although Garoppolo worries me with the injuries, he knows he's very good in the system.
What good is he if he's injured, though?
Well, yeah, but hey, Ralph, welcome.
Any of them could get injured.
So, but you would take Aaron Rodgers, right?
First would be Aaron Rodgers. If nothing, if cost or draft picks wasn't an issue.
Right. Ray, it's funny. You ever hear when they try to ask a politician a yes/no question?
No.
Well, that's what I tried with you. You had three choices, but that's okay.
That isn't that easy.
I know.
Ralph, can you see me?
I do not see you, Ralph, but I can hear you.
Okay. Well,
you're on the air, so while you're getting the visual set up, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah, I'm on Tammy's computer. I can't figure it out. Go on.
Forgetting about the cost doesn't mean anything. These three quarterbacks, who would you rather have? Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, or Aaron Rodgers?
Easy. I'd go Carr, Rodgers, Garoppolo.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so ability-wise, you think the Jets as a team have more upside with Derek Carr?
Well, I think he's younger, and I think he's Rodgers. I don't know how much he has left, but I'd still take him over Garoppolo because I never liked Garoppolo, and I think he's overrated, as Brock Purdy is proving right now. And I think Carr's in his prime, and he's strong. He's durable. Yeah, and and also if we get Carr, we settle that really quickly.
There you go. Right.
Not worth the wait, huh?
Yeah. And what I don't understand, Ray, I don't know if Samini or anybody ever wrote out the scenarios of the timeline, which I don't understand, where you can make a trade. Can you make a trade for Rodgers but not announce it until after June 1st? I don't know what the parameters are. Have you heard anything about that, Ray?
No, but I mean, basically they aren't going to do it before June 1st because it'll cost Green Bay a lot more money. So I don't think Green Bay is going to be willing to trade him before June 1st unless you really, throw everything at them. And I think they're going to try and save some money if they trade him.
But my question is, technical wise, maybe Ralph, I thought like last year with the Rams quarterback, you could make a trade and say the parameters are set, but it won't go into effect after June 1st. So I'm just
I don't know.
wondering.
I hope you can, because I cannot see teams waiting till June 1st on the possibility of Aaron Rodgers, who's kind of flaky. I feel like they'd have to have a backroom handshake on this thing early in the game. But of course, does that mean Aaron Rodgers is in on it? Because
He'd have to be.
can you trust him? Because if they let all these other quarterbacks get taken up, and then suddenly they're left holding the bag in June, that would be a disaster.
Well, Ray, that might be motivation enough to move on Derek Carr.
I'd
Well,
be fine.
yeah, I think teams should move on these other quarterbacks
you know,
first.
As we've talked about, Marty, numerous times, I'm not high on the Aaron Rodgers just simply because of what I think it'll cost. And that's too many draft picks that I think we need. And it's more like a 1-year rental, 2 if we're lucky. So, when you were taking all the parameters out of the mix and just said, who would you want? Right. That's why I went with Rodgers. But my first choice would be wait for Derek Carr to get cut and negotiate a deal with Derek Carr. Don't trade for him. I don't want to trade for anybody because these guys are going to want at least a first-round pick, if not more. And
the thing is, someone else might trade for him, though. That's the thing.
So be it. I just don't like. I think we got too many things.
I think Joe Douglas makes an offer to them. I don't think he offers big, but he gives them something and hopes that nobody else.
Right. I could see throwing
a better offer,
throwing a low ball offer at him, but I'm not gonna.
I don't know about low ball, but not high ball.
Well, when I say low ball, not 2 first rounders like they're gonna probably expect.
Well,
maybe a second and something. Okay, but.
Just so you know,
you just got to hope nobody else is going to top it,
Right.
A quick update is that about let's see, about 6 hours ago, I heard Brian Costello, who was on FAN, and according to him, it's not going to cost the Jets 2 first-round picks. What he said, according to hold it, Ray. What he said,
I know.
he thinks it'll cost something like a second this year and something else. Could be a first, could be a second next year.
You talking about Carr?
No,
I think they're talking about Rodgers.
They're talking about Rodgers.
Yeah. Carr, I don't see why they have to give up anything.
They don't but somebody, like Ralph said, somebody else might, and then you don't.
I mean, if nobody else, if one team makes an offer, then the Raiders are going to take it probably.
Well,
I think they're going to get a bunch
of
offers.
Ralph and Ray, Derek Carr has a no trade clause.
Exactly.
Okay, he's not going to any trade he doesn't want. That's number one. Number two, if I'm Derek Carr, I would say, why should I any trade and weaken the team I'm going to go to when I can negotiate with them 3 days after the Super Bowl?
I think the point is teams are still going to make an offer just in case. So if he agrees to and everything, that would be in the Raiders' best interest because then they get something for him. It's in a way, it's in his best interest because his deal that he has stays intact unless he thinks he can negotiate a better one. But most teams, I think, are going to want to negotiate something a little more cap friendly to them than what he has in place right now. So,
well, the thing about Derek Carr is if he's got so much control, are the Jets an attractive team to him?
Well, that's it. That's what you have to figure out. But the point is, Ralph, at least that's something you get out of the way quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know where you stand.
Believe me. Can you imagine sitting around till June waiting on the possibility of Rodgers?
It won't be till June, but I'm guessing. I'm not guessing. I'm sure that on Joe Douglas's computer, he's got like anywhere from like 1 to 10 scenarios with all these other quarterbacks. So
as far as Rodgers though, it is June 1st. Even first of all, like we said, he's got to kind of be in the mix. They aren't going to make a deal without any assurances from him. So, and unless he's in on the deal, which I don't see him, because he's more and more like Favre every year, where he's got to play the, I don't know, I'm going to think about it. I think he just enjoys the attention as much as he makes it sound like he's thinking about it. I think he likes everybody talking about him, but who knows? Maybe he really is mulling it over. But he's got to agree to it, or what good at June 1st is still the issue, because they've got to decide on him or Carr well in advance of June 1st.
Okay,
So,
and
Carr,
Go ahead, Ralph.
Favre and Rodgers are the same age. When they just got Favre, when now they're looking at Rodgers. Instinctively, who do you think was in better shape and had a younger, was younger as far as football years goes? Because I think Rodgers. There was something about Favre, he seemed like he
looked done.
Well, let me ask you this, Ralph. I had asked Ray during the week, and don't say anything, Ray. The year after he was on the Jets, he was with the Vikings. Guess how many touchdown passes he threw at the Vikings?
Well, they almost went to the Super Bowl. He had a
Right.
great year. He had a really good year.
You know how many touchdown passes he had?
30,
41.
41,
Guess how many interceptions?
10.
7.
Yeah, he had a great year, and
Great year.
They were, a couple of plays from beating New Orleans and getting to the Super Bowl. That was it. Then he dropped off the cliff. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the play that put him out of the Super Bowl was a horrible pick he threw over the middle of the field, and even the announcers for the Vikings went nuts over it.
Right.
If you ever hear that play call, but
And I believe in the Super Bowl they play Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning threw a pick 6 or something to blow that game.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Ralph, if let's say they go with Carr, and you guys were talking about the trading for him before that 3-day period is up, I don't think the Raiders have a lot of leverage as far as getting draft picks. Do you?
Like I said, it depends on, if there's a team out there that's willing to show it out. I don't think Douglas is that type of guy. He values his draft picks more than a lot of other teams do. So I think he'd make an offer, but I don't think it would be an insane offer. Now, how many teams are in the market for Derek Carr? I don't know. We talked about that.
New Orleans is in it.
I would bet he'll give them a list of teams before it hits that. I would.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So they know who they can negotiate with.
Yeah. And who knows if the Jets will be on that list?
It may not. I mean, I think, well, the downside is that you've heard he's not a great cold weather quarterback, and there's not a lot of stuff, but I think he's had about a dozen games in sub 40 weather, and it hasn't been good. But beyond that, I think the Jets have a lot that could entice him, because when he sees that they were basically a quarterback away this year, and if they fix up their offensive line, I think he's got a lot of reason that he might, be interested in coming here.
Yeah, the cold weather thing is interesting. Peyton Manning was never a cold weather quarterback. When he went to Denver, and he did well for a few years. So
yeah,
it might be
that's
a small sample size.
Yeah.
Ralph, I just want to say one thing. I know we all like Joe Douglas, and we like the way he values draft picks. But there's also a question is, what sort of mandate has Woody Johnson given to him? Because I heard he was like beside himself with the losing streak at the end of the year and not scoring a touchdown in the 3 games. So
what's wrong with that?
No, and look, I mean, he said he came out and he said he's willing to spend money. So, he might just overrule Joe Douglas. We don't know about that.
In as much as Derek Carr, or paying, you think he'd shell out the kind of money to get Lamar Jackson?
I'm saying that if Joe Douglas, if his floor, I'm just picking something, let's say a 3rd round draft pick for Derek Carr, Woody Johnson might say, no, I want him. I don't care if it costs us a 1st round pick. He might overrule him. That's my feeling. Okay.
It happens. I think Joe Douglas would go give a 2nd round pick for Derek Carr. If he could get him for a 2nd round pick, I think he'd do it.
This year's?
Huh? Yeah. I don't think a 1st rounder though. You
What do
know,
you think?
what he could do though, if he did give you up the second round pick, was drop back 10 slots and then get another second round pick. You know, I was just looking at the offensive tackles. There will be offensive tackles there
There will be.
from 20 to 45.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's three studs.
There's three studs, although I've
Besides
seen
that, it's deep. They're just not first round picks. And
right.
plus,
Yeah,
they're
Oklahoma's got a guy who go late
right.
first, early second.
Tennessee, they
Yeah,
have another
Tennessee.
one.
And I've heard, I mean, and it's of the top three. I see Broderick Jones is pretty much always third. The other two go 1, 2. But Broderick Jones, I see dropping down in some drafts, like
Right.
in 20s. So,
Yes.
who knows? Because he doesn't have a lot of experience, but, he started left tackle this year for Georgia. So that's something.
Besides that, there are three centers from, there's one from Arkansas, Minnesota, and Ray near you, Ohio State. And I think they're actually undervaluing all three of them, to be honest with you. So they could get, one of those guys. I want to circle back to this quarterback situation, but I just want to talk about the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. But first, I don't even know if it's a trivia question, but I'll ask it. You can think about it. In 2019, the Alabama, are they the Tide, Ralph? Rolling Tide?
Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide. They had 4 quarterbacks in their quarterback room, 2019. Think about it, and we'll discuss who they are at the end of the show,
I can
okay?
tell you right now, Hurts, and Mac Jones, and
Tua and
I don't know, was Young there? What's his
Bryce
name?
Young there yet? I
Bryce
don't
Young.
think so.
Yeah, I like the way you guys listen. Wait till the end of the show.
Well,
Okay.
by the end of the show, I might have forgotten it.
All right, so go ahead, Ralph. You give me those 3 again.
Tua, Mac Jones, and Jalen Hurts.
Ray, anything else?
I don't know who the fourth might be.
Well, apparently, Tua's brother was there before he transferred to Maryland.
That's cheating.
Tua. So, that's pretty interesting, though. 4 guys that are going to be NFL quarterbacks or already are NFL quarterbacks. Okay, anyway, old news, they hired Nathaniel Hackett. I give it a thumbs up. Ray, what do you give it?
Oh, I was happy with that. I mean, I don't think as much as everybody thinks it was to lure Aaron Rodgers. We heard the same thing when he went to Denver, and he didn't end up there either. I just like that he. I think we're going to keep basically the same system in place, and if we can fill some pieces, and I just think he is more prepared for this job than LaFleur was. Down the line, LaFleur, and Ralph made the joke that LaFleur is going to be like the best offensive coordinator next year or something, but I think down the line LaFleur will turn into a good one, very possibly. But right now, I think he was overmatched, and I think Hackett brings some stability there.
Right, and how about you, Ralph? Give us your reaction to.
I feel kind of neutral about it. I look, like most guys who've been around the league for a while, he's had some good moments and some bad moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me, his greatest achievement was what he got out of Blake Bortles for a couple of years in Jacksonville, much more so than Green Bay, where Aaron Rodgers is sort of more on automatic pilot. I don't have any issue with the fact that his father was Paul Hackett, because Paul Hackett, when he was with the Jets, was here for 4 years, and they won. They were in the playoffs 3 out of 4, which the Jets have never had a 4-year stretch like that in their history. I'm not saying it's because of Paul Hackett, but I'm saying if Paul Hackett is as bad as some Jet fans think, then I guess the offensive coordinator is not as important as we think he is, because, like I said, they made the playoffs 3 out of 4 years.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the stench of that Denver situation with Hackett is very fresh, but of course most coordinators who are good at coordinators are not going to be good head coaches. It's just the way it is. It's a completely different job. And I don't think you can judge him on that. I know leading into the Denver game, I remember hearing Salah speak really highly of Hackett, and as it turned out, at that point, they had a really strong defense.
Right.
And, he was, as Sal was saying, they're this close to having a winning record, just a couple of plays here and there. So I'm not really surprised at it. Little surprised that Hackett took the job. He had all 4 years on his contract, and the Jets, a team without a quarterback and without an offensive line. I'm not a little surprised, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, you have to go back too. If you remember last year, the Denver job was a very desirable job. If you
Yeah.
remember. So it says something that they went out and got this guy because he would have gotten a different head coaching job. Ralph, you mentioned Jacksonville. I did a little bit of a dive as far as his offensive coordinator, and I thought really one of his best years. Listen to this. When he was with the Buffalo Bills 2013, they were 6-10. His offense was 19th in the league. They averaged 21.2 points per game. Guess who his quarterback was?
EJ Manuel.
EJ Manuel, who was 4-6, and his backup played 5 games. His second string. Ray, you know who his backup was?
Nathaniel Peterman.
No, Thaddeus Lewis. And the third string quarterback.
Yeah, that was the second guess.
The third string quarterback started one game, Jeff Toole. And that year, his wide receivers were Robert Woods, Steve Johnson, and a tight end by the name of Scott Chandler. The running back, Scott Chandler, don't know who he is.
Yeah, I remember him.
He was decent.
Yeah. Fred Jackson, CJ Spiller were the running backs.
Right,
So
yeah. They were a run-heavy team that year, I believe. That was good.
That might be one of his better jobs. And of course, the head coach was my favorite, Doug Marrone. And the next year, they actually went 9-7 with Kyle Orton, I believe, at quarterback. But it
was a mediocre quarterback too. So I mean, when a guy takes a mediocre quarterback and he shows something, that's almost as good as you take Aaron Rodgers and you're one of the top 5. So I agree with you. That's not bad. It's not bad.
And also, I like the fact that even though he didn't call the plays in Green Bay, Ray, he was the red zone coach. So I believe he had input in those plays, and they did a pretty good job, not this year, but the couple of years before in a row.
I think they were middling this year. But a lot of his...
Well, this year he wasn't there.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But the point is, and Ralph always verifies this, that I'm obsessed with red zone offense, and ours stinks. So
I was thinking about his red zone offense with Denver. It was like middling, and he's big on the run game, and that's where we're going to have to. That's why we're showing up the line. But if he hadn't lost, what was his name? The running back for Denver hadn't gone down. Their offense was doing okay when they could run the ball, but once he
what's his name? Michael Carter's teammate, Javonte Williams.
Right. Yeah. Well, also Robert Sala's press conference, I guess 1 or 2 days ago, and a lot of these press conferences, as we know, that they usually don't say anything.
Oh God, they're so boring, and the questions are so awful.
Yeah, but the one thing he did say is that the 2 things they were definitely going to do was to get a veteran quarterback and to revamp the offensive line. So, look, it's no surprise, but I kind of like that he said it. You know what I mean? All right, let's circle back to the quarterback situation. I mentioned to you, I listened to Brian Costello was on the radio, I was on FEN earlier, and when the host asked him, like, gun to your head, who do you think is going to jet quarterback next year? Guess who he said? Ray, start with you.
Who said?
Brian Costello, Jet beat writer. Yeah.
No idea.
I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. Jimmy Garoppolo.
I was just Garoppolo. I was just say because I know I've listened to some of his podcasts. He likes Garoppolo a lot.
It's funny, Ralph. Every day I read an article now that Jimmy Garoppolo might be ready for the Super Bowl. And I'm saying, you got to be kidding. He's not going to see the field. If they make the Super Bowl, it's going to be Purdy. He's not.
If they make, oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is
be.
like a Drew Bledsoe Brady thing. You got to go with the hot hand. I don't think they're going to beat Philly, but they could. And yeah, if they did, you know that Brees Hall was Purdy's roommate for 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I heard that. Yeah, I used to work with a guy that was a Ohio State graduate. So I get these texts and emails like once a week.
Ohio State or Iowa State?
Iowa State. I'm sorry, Iowa State for like the last 10 years. So it's been.
You're kidding.
No, he's good.
Oh, is that why you were so high on Matt Campbell?
It could have been, yeah. Anyway, it's funny because I coached his son in baseball, and he's the associate AD, Ralph, at Stony Brook right now.
Oh, really?
which is interesting. Anyway, okay, back to the quarterbacks. I mean, we're beating it like a dead horse, but everyone else is. And I'll tell you, you listen to talk radio in New York, like I do almost, 24 hours a day. And it reminds me of 2 other times where it was just all talk about the Jets. I'll just tell you, one was Brett Favre when he became a Jet or was about to become a Jet. And the other I remember was Ray, you'll like this, Bill Parcells. It was unbelievable when he left the Patriots, became the best part was the rumors. As the rumor mill was going on, all these denials, everything was about Bill Parcells. But now everything is about Aaron Rodgers. Ralph wants Derek Carr. Marty wants Aaron Rodgers. Ray is kind of up in the air depending upon the compensation. Is that right, Ray?
Yes, that's definitely right. I mean,
okay.
Well,
Ray,
let me go back and say,
forgetting about compensation of the 3, who do you think would give them the best chance?
That's what I asked him before you came on. Go ahead, Ray. Tell him what you said.
Well, no, I said no, but you were still saying forget about compensation.
Yeah, that's what Ralph said. Yeah,
but and I said just strictly as a quarterback, I like, but I'm just talking about 1 year, and I'm not talking about long term. 1
say
year,
the name, Ray.
I would take Rodgers for 1 year.
All right.
But if you're talking as a guy that we can have for 10 years, I want Carr if it's the right deal.
Because you don't want to give up multiple
I don't want to give up
picks.
a bunch of picks, and I don't want to have to trade for Carr and take on that contract that he has now. I want to sign him free agent.
The Jets haven't been in the playoff in 12 years.
I don't care.
In those 12 years,
that will sustain us.
They've had 16 first-round picks. To me, I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Well, we didn't have Joe Douglas as our GM all those years either.
I understand he could miss also.
He can. He did.
And I know, and I'm the first one to admit, if they do get him, and let's say worst case scenario, they give up 2 firsts and a second, which they never will, and he breaks his other thumb first day of training camp. Those things happen. What are you going to do? But I say, take a shot. This team is ready to go. The other thing I'll say is this, and Ray, I know we discussed that they have too many holes. There are a lot of other holes, but I maintain I don't know how many of those holes on defense you could really count just because there was so many darn 3-and-outs. They were on the field all year.
I'll give you that on the line. I'll give you that a little bit with the linebackers, but we need to upgrade the safeties. Jerome Whitehead, or is it Jerome?
Jerome Whitehead of Marquette Warriors. Remember him?
Yeah. But
Jordan Whitehead.
We were still a top 5 defense, Ray.
Based on what? PFF? I don't
know. All the stats. I mean,
the defense was, but I'm talking. We have 2 safeties who cost us. Jordan Whitehead thought he was Ronnie Lott and didn't have to wrap guys up, and Joyner got burned numerous times. We need an upgrade.
They will be able to replace players. I don't think they're going to get rid of both safeties. I think Joyner's going to go.
I do too. I think Whitehead will still be there.
I like Tony Adams.
Yeah, they have 6 picks, but if you get Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is playing at a level, not his MVP level 2 years ago, but better than he played last year. That'll cover up a lot of problems on defense. And I don't think there are that many on defense. I think it's the offensive line. You got to get the offensive line. You get the offensive line, Rodgers or Carr.
And then we get some running attack going, and then we can
and you keep the other team off the field. That makes all the difference in the world.
Now,
the offensive line coach is a run guy. Nathaniel Hackett actually is a run guy too, and
yes, he is.
They have talented runners. They got to get an offensive line. I think they're going to keep Connor McGovern. I think there are just too many moving parts that they have to replace. I think now his contract is up. I think they signed him for another year. I just feel like Joe Douglas feels like there are just too many holes for him to stick fingers in the dike. And at least, I'm not crazy about him. Maybe they draft a center in the 4th round or something like that. And maybe he's ready or not.
If we can get another guard and maybe a tackle, whether it's free agent or something, I'm okay with keeping McGovern, but we really you can't rely on who.
No, you can't. But I mean, I think is Tomlinson here for another year? If that's a yes,
maybe he'll have a bounce back year.
Then their guards are kind of set.
Yeah.
And if they keep Herbert, they need a tackle. But do they need 1 or 2 tackles? That's the question. And what do they look at Becton? Do they look at him as whatever you get from him, it's gravy? We can't count on him? Or do they think Max Mitchell can step in next year and be
if he's back? I liked what Mitchell did while we had
him. Yes.
Here's my thing though, and I always say this to Marty is I don't want a 1-year run and then here we go back to the crap pile again, trying to rebuild or fill holes because things didn't work out. I want to be in a position where we're in the playoffs for the next 10 years.
Absolutely. That would be the preferable. But if we had a 1-year run and we went down, it doesn't, if you do it right, a team can turn around quickly. How many teams have turned around like 3 times in the last 12 years when the Jets have just been on their butts?
Never do.
It can be done if you know how to do it. Philly is unbelievable.
Right.
Super Bowl,
Philly,
they absolutely bottomed
Pittsburgh.
out. Now they're back in the Super Bowl practically.
The Steelers, they're always competing.
I'll say this though, Ray, and I think I mentioned this, that if you look the last 2 Super Bowls, they both picked up a quarterback for that year. Tom Brady.
Hey, look, if they picked him up and we gave away the farm and we went to the Super Bowl and God forbid win it, I mean, I'd be like, okay, I'm obviously if
I'd be okay if we even just went to the division, the conference championship. To me,
look,
I'm tired of going to the championship and that.
It hasn't happened that much.
Well, it's every time it happens though. That's it. That's the end of the line.
Ray, I'm not in love with mortgaging the future. Let me just get that. I want to state that for the record. But what the Rams did, and they rolled the dice. They could have very, very well lost one of their first 2 games. All right,
they were more of a complete team than us too.
Okay, but they rolled the dice and it paid off.
Right.
Okay, and I'm willing, if it's not like 2 number 1s and a number 2,
What are you willing? Your upper offer for Rodgers? What would that be, Marty?
This year, number 2, and a conditional number 1 next year, 24, because he could retire. You don't know that.
Okay, so he's got to come back for the next.
Of course. Yeah, I think that's fair, and I don't think Green Bay is negotiating from a tremendous amount of strength. Just like I don't think the Raiders are negotiating with a tremendous amount of strength, except the fact, Ralph, that you said how many teams are interested, but he's got the no trade clause.
And if there's one team that's willing to sell out and do it, it's all it takes. That's the thing, yeah. Is Washington a team like that? I don't know.
I
would bet that from Green Bay standpoint, they want a list of teams and then they want to let those teams know who they are, get that list out there.
Well, Ralph, the one thing I'll say to you, which I heard also on the radio, apparently, which isn't great news for Ralph, Ray, Marty, and other Jet fans, apparently Frank Reich likes Derek Carr a lot. So we have to see if they're in the running for him, which would be interesting.
And
all right,
they have draft picks, and they also trade them a lot. You know, look at what they gave up for Darnold. If they gave that up for Darnold, what do you think you'd give up for Derek Carr?
I know. That's it. Would Derek Carr go there? I don't know. That's it. We'll have to see.
I bet he
Warm
would.
weather.
Well, it also comes into factoring too, some of these old guys. And even though you could say they don't need the money, but the fact that, you know, New York, New Jersey has a state income taxes and other states don't, that could come into, you know, the picture.
Yeah, when you're talking that much money, it is.
Yeah. You know, and again, you could say, well, they have all the money they need. You know how these guys are.
So,
Ralph, it reminds me of the old story you told me a number of years ago when a guy was interviewing on the Knick game after the game. And I forgot who it was, some superstar. And he was hanging, and after the interview, he said, when do I get my free Walkman? It was like, and it reminds me of another old story where, you know, we have a friend that knew the Williams family in Mount Vernon. And it was a friend of my brother, Stu Cohen. He knew them well. And
Williams family, you don't mean Serena, you mean Gus and Ray.
Gus and Ray, yeah. And actually, I think Sam Williams was another brother. Anyway, he saw this is the middle of their contracts, and he saw Ray Williams on the street, and he's coming back from lunch, and Stu says, "Hey Ray, I heard your mom's moving. When is she moving?" And he's just like sitting on a box. So he's just saying, "I'm waiting to borrow my friend's truck," you know, which is sounding good. So anyway, all right. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Anything else, Mr. Clifford, you want to add?
No. Who's everybody picking in the games tomorrow? You said
Okay.
Cincinnati was going to win it all, so I assume you mean Cincinnati.
I'm going for Cincinnati, and I'm, in all due respect to my good friends that are Giant fans, I'm going for San Francisco because Giants, they don't hate anyone more than they hate the Eagles. So that's who I'm going for. How about you, Ray?
I was leaning the same way, Bengal, but you know, it's always one of these ones. Everybody talks up a team. You start thinking, oh yeah, that's a little too much of that talk. But I thought the interesting thing was if it could go that route, every time the Bengals make the Super Bowl, who do they play? The Niners. So that would be kind of odd. The third in a series. But,
except for last year, they played the Rams. But,
right.
Ralph, who do you like?
Well, I thought Casey would go all the way. Now with Mahomes, I doubt he's really going to be 100%. He's not, and believe me.
Yeah.
I think I give the edge to Cincy. I like Philly. It looks like Philly's got their game together. I think they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
I got a quick Super Bowl trivia question.
Oh, quick, before you do that, quickly, I got a question I want to squeeze in there. Who starts more games next year, Mekhi Becton or Tua for the Dolphins? Ralph.
Who starts more games?
Yeah.
Tua.
Okay, Ray.
Yeah, Tua, but
I'm going to say
only a couple more.
I'm going to say Tua also. Okay, go ahead, Ralph. Your trivia question.
In the history of the Super Bowl, how many of their games have been decided by 1 point? And what would name the games?
Oh, geez.
I'm going to say one, but I can't name the game. I don't know the game.
What do you say, Ray? Well,
Wow. I don't remember any, to be honest with you. So I'll go with none.
it is one.
Yeah.
It was, I guess, the Gulf War game, the Giants and the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there have been so many close Super Bowls,
Yeah.
but you know, they rarely end up 1 point games. Yeah.
Right. Good question, Ralph. Okay, for Ray Clifford and Ralph Schrager, Marty Schupak for Jets Rewind. Enjoy the games and check out our sponsor, tballamerica.com. Until next time.